We continue on ideologies and poisonous ideologies. And this time I'm going to introduce what I call the scalpel. And that is, how do you cut into these ideologies, whether it's Al-Qaeda or a set ideology in terms of a military or education or even art. How can you continually go back to creativity? Now, the Greeks gave us several myths, because when somebody challenged an ideology, so the gods would punish him. So they put Prometheus bound, chained, and punished by the gods, until every day he had to experience a bird pecking away at his liver. That was his punishment. I'm interested in how we can cut through an ideology and change it, because they are poisonous. We know the Greeks also came up with Sisyphus, who had a big boulder. Since he went against the gods, he had a big boulder, and he had to push that boulder up a hill till he was almost at the crest, and then the boulder came back down. And that was his punishment. And so we have Prometheus bound by an ideology, and we have Sisyphus, whose life is made into a ritual by an ideology. And we all know how easy it is to follow the progression from creative to system to saying, I have the truth. This is the way you do it. This is it. We know that progression, and we know that it is quite easy. But how can we cut through the chains? How can we get Prometheus to be free? How can we get Sisyphus to quit trying hard, pushing a rock all day long? And every day in the week, every week in the month, every month in the year, and year after year, pushing against something, but not cutting the cords. Now, my first proposal is this. Reveal exactly their system. And this is an answer to Hillary Clinton's question about, we've got to become smarter. How do we do that in terms of these problems around the world? First thing is to spell out exactly the system so that everybody knows it. Put it in all media. This is what the Al-Qaeda people believe. They believe that in the same violence that appears in their holy book, the Quran, they have selected those things, and that's what they believe. And they go and kill themselves. They believe that they're going to get 28 virgins if they are killed as a martyr. They believe that they'll eventually change the entire world to their belief system. That's their promise. And they go over exactly those beliefs, put them out in an anatomical fashion, and let everybody know this is what these people believe. Well, you juxtapose that. This is the second way to cut through the poisonous ideology. You juxtapose it with the other choices. So this is what these people believe, and this is what is also in the Quran. And it shows love, it shows consideration. Yes, there are ways to use our intelligence to struggle against anybody that tries to manipulate us. And you explain the difference, for instance, between the Sunni Muslims and the Shiites. And so you explain this so that everybody knows this anatomy. They know exactly what is going on. In other words, you're fighting these word systems, these ideologies that have all these complexity to it. You're showing it exactly for what it is, and you're showing other options is this option in Afghanistan where there are all these little tribes and where women are just degraded something terribly, so that if they were to show a little bit of their face, they can have acid thrown in their face. If they go to a school, they can be killed. You show what can happen if women become more free. You juxtapose against the ideology another option, how women can contribute, and how women have contributed throughout other parts of the world. So we now have two ways, say it what it is, very clear, and juxtapose something against it. Now I'm part of saying where it is, and I do put this differently because in philosophical training, I knew that there were 3 to 6 basic assumptions. Now what is their assumptions under their system? And that's true of any philosophical system, any theological system. For instance, I'll later go to evangelical theology and I will point to their basic assumptions, their basic beliefs that they cannot prove. And what are those basic assumptions of, say, Al-Qaeda? We need to be explicit about that. What proof do they have? What evidence do they have that there's going to be 28 virgins if you're killed as a martyr? Where did they get that? And is in that in one little specific sentence of the Quran? And does that have weight in the 21st century? We don't face the world that Muhammad faced, that is captured in the Quran. So we need a fourth way. Now we've got tell it like it is, contrast it with others, visit their basic assumption, and a fourth way is what are the consequences? What are the personal consequences for following that ideology? Like if you follow, say, a Mormon faith, what is your evidence that that unleashes creativity? If you follow the Jewish orthodoxy, what trees do they plant? As Mayor Richard Daley once said when there were protesters about building a new road, they were saying they chained themselves to trees, and Richard Daley said, what trees do they plant? So you check out the consequences for the family. How is it good for a family for a man to go off and get killed in an Al-Qaeda raid? How is that good for the family? How is it good for the community? How is that good for your nation? You check out all the consequences. How is that good for the future of your country? How is that good for the world to follow that particular system? Do you want every woman in the world to go back and live in the home and be obedient to a husband that can, all he has to do is say, I'll divorce you, I divorce you, I divorce you 3 times, and she's out on the street? Do you want everybody in the world to live like that? Sure, a true believer would say, yeah, that would be wonderful if it was a man, but it wouldn't be, a woman wouldn't say that. So you check out the consequences. And then you explain for my fifth way to cut through the cords of an ideology that this is an interconnected world now. Everything connects us, not only marketing and consuming and food and water and the threat of military and technology, where Eric Schmidt, the head of Google, said that by 2025, another 2 billion people will be connected to the internet, and they will be accessing information. I was straightening out my books the other day, and culling them because I give the ones that no longer interest me or I have mastered the content to a charity. And I saw a dictionary, a big, thick dictionary. And I know that I can access any word quickly on Wikipedia or another search site. And I thought, well, there's another book that can go to a charity because I don't have use for it anymore. The 21st century is ruling out a lot of old options. So these are my 5 proposals. Now, I had a funny thought that I shared with my wife the other day, where a person will say, I'm a Buddhist, or I love Nietzsche and I'm an existentialist, or I am a liberal, I'm a conservative. And these aren't defined specifically, but they're said as if this is a total set belief for all time and for the good of everyone. I'm a free market kind of guy. I remember George W. Bush saying that, and then he told his cabinet, all the people from the various governmental organizations, to hold back on regulation. Well, we know what happened in 2008. We almost fell into another major depression because regulation is necessary. And if you say, I'm a free market kind of guy, you have given your ideology in one little bitty sentence, and you think it's set and you think it's going to solve every problem in the world. So I told my wife, I know what I'd do if somebody says, I am a, and then they spout an ideology. I am a evangelical Christian. I'm a Buddhist. I am a conservative Catholic. In other words, they've said, my brain cancer has metastasized. I'm no longer thinking, creating, learning, growing, being, experiencing. I have finished up and I have my packaged little piece of truth. So I told my wife, if somebody says that to me, the only response I know to say is, I am very, very sorry. And then I would add, I prefer freedom.